Hello and welcome to another video. Are you working with data and are you considering to change from Excel to a programming language? Or would you simply like to expand your horizon and see how visualizations are done in Python? Well then stick to this video because I'm going to show you how to create your first graph in Python. Furthermore, we are not just creating a graph from random numbers, but we are using a real-life dataset from Yahoo Finance. If this is of interest to you, then buckle up and stick to the video. Let's jump into it.
Alright, now that we are on our computers, we can actually start coding and jump into our interpreting environment. In this case, I'm going to use PyCharm, but you can use whatever you want, whether it's Sublime, PyCharm, whatever that might be. In PyCharm, however, you just go to File, New Project, you give it a name, and call Create. When you've done that, you can start importing the libraries that we are going to use for the actual coding part. In this case, we are going to use Matplotlib for the actual visualization, and we are going to use Pandas for the data management, but that will only come in handy once we are going to import the Apple dataset that we have from Yahoo Finance. It is a CSV and very easy to work with. All right, let's jump into it. So we need from Matplotlib import pyplot, and you can give the library an abbreviation so you don't have to call the full name all the time. And in this case, we are going to give it PLT. And what is most likely going to happen to you, if especially you're using it for the first time, is that you might get a red or an orange underline in Matplotlib and maybe even in pyplot. And that means that the library that you want to call is not imported yet. Well, it's not installed in the folder yet. But you can do that by going to the terminal, and in most environments that's somewhere on the bottom. And you are writing pip install matplotlib, and then just press enter. And as you can see, in my case, the requirement is already satisfied because I did it before. But for you, it might be downloading Matplotlib for a couple of seconds now. When you've done that, we can actually start to create a plot. And what do we need for a plot? Well, we need X and Y data. So let's start with that. The data should be in list form. So let's give it a list, some random numbers, and we are just copying that to get a straight line, but it doesn't matter. We are just trying to get a basic plot going. And in order to get the actual plot, we need to specify the library that we want to use and the function from it. In this case, the library is the abbreviation PLT, and the function that we want to call is plot. Now, for the simplest of all plots, we just need to specify X, Y, because we already have the similarly named variables. That makes it quite easy. You can run the program now, and you will see that nothing will happen. Well, actually nothing visual will happen. And that is because in order for it to be visualized, you need to call plt show. Let's do it now. And as you can see, now we have a fine plot. You can also see, however, that it's very bare bones. We don't have any labels yet, no title, no Y label, no X label. And maybe we would also like to change the color. So let's start with these simple commands. In order to get a title, it is very straightforward. plt dot title. And the title form should be in string, so let's call it title. And if we run the program now, you can see we have a title. Very small, but I hope you can see it. And similarly easy is the Y label, which is also just a string. And to make it a bit easier for us, we just copy that, and instead of Y label, we call it X label. It doesn't matter if you call X or Y label before or first, doesn't matter at all. So we can run, and actually now I didn't change the label, but you see now we have 2 labels, and by changing the name as well, you can also see that each of the label is correctly specified. Basically, this is a very simple plot. We can now do all sorts of adjustments to it. For example, color in Matplotlib is just C, and you have a lot of different options when it comes to color coding your graphs. You can use simple strings for simple colors like red, blue, green, purple. Let's specify that. So if you see, if the color is purple, now the graph, the line is purple itself. You can also use hex codes. You can use RGB colors, whatever you prefer. You can give the line width a different size, so line width equal to let's say 10 to make it very obvious. Run it, and you can see now we have a very visually appealing little graph. But because this is so easy, you can basically from this point on explore on your own. What we want to do, however, is we would like to import external data, so we can actually visualize something that is very useful for us in our maybe daily business, if you work with data, or if you're just interested in it. But as I said before, we are going to use pandas for it, so we need to import pandas, and again we would like to give it an abbreviation which is called with as, so pandas PD. And again, if you do not have pandas installed, go to your terminal and type pip install pandas. For me, the requirement is already satisfied, so I do not have to do it. Lucky me. Alright, let's call the data, or import the data. And we do that in a variable. We say data, and in this case our data is a CSV file, so we call the function pd pandas.read because we want to read a file. We want to read the CSV and pass the name of the file that is in the same directory as the project is. So for me in the beginning that was a little bit confusing. If you don't want to specify the path where the file is on your computer, and you would like to only pass the name of the file, and that is very important, has to be in the project folder where you are actually writing the code right now. So for me it would be in home, the quant, which is the name of the user. PyCharm projects is the folder that is being created by PyCharm for the specific projects. And then I think my folder in this case is called tutorials. So this is where the file has to be in order for you to just specify the name. Otherwise you also have to specify the path. Basically just Google how to specify a path in Python and you will for sure find an answer on Stack Overflow. I will not go into detail of that in this video. But to continue, we just choose the file, and in order to see whether we actually do read the file, let's start a print statement. And a print statement is going to give us some output in the terminal or in the console. Well, not the terminal, it's the console. And we are going to say data.head. And what is this going to do? This is going to show us the first 5 rows. Well, that's the native starting comment for head. So we can also specify 5, we can also specify 10. But the first 5 rows of our data. So let's run that. And we can see now we have the first 5 rows of data along with the head of the column names. So basically we can see data, so we did everything right. And that means that we can start to plot. So what do we want to plot? So if I run it again, basically we don't see anything. Well, you need to know the column name in order to plot the graph. So we want, in this case, plt.plot, and we need a y and an x. Let's say the x is data, and then you have to have the square brackets, and you're going to call the name of the column that you want to specify as your x variable. However, maybe we do not know the possibilities of our columns, and we can find that out by using print data dot columns, and the double dot is specifying we want to have all the columns retreated. So if we run that now, we get a small index with all the possible column names. So if we want to graph this stock market graph, then it might be of interest for us to use date as our X data, and maybe we want to use adjusted close for our Y data. So I hope I didn't blabber around too much and that was understandable. But basically plt plot data, and now we know that we want to have date, and for the Y we want to have data, and it was called adjusted close. Python is also case sensitive, so you need to specify the case correctly, otherwise it will not work. If I have date here now and plt.show in order to show us the graph, then I will get an error specifying that it did not find the column name. So let's do the correct one, call the little program again, and my computer is not the fastest, so it might take a couple of seconds. You can see I have a window, but the window is quite frozen. Let's see how long it's going to take. Oh, I saw a little gist of it. Alright, and there we have the graph. And as before, you can specify the color again by going into C equals, let's say, green. You can have the labels again, plt dot y label, whoops, and call it AAPL stock price. And if you run that again, yes, stop and return, you will see that again we will have a Y label, we will again have a different color. And basically when this pops up, this tutorial will be over. I hope this has helped you, and this might be of interest to you when maybe changing, for example, from Excel to a programming language. I used Excel for a long time, but I have to come to the conclusion that doing data analysis in Python is just much faster. So if this is of interest to you, maybe consider changing. In any case, have a great week, and please consider liking or subscribing if you got something out of the video. Thank you very much, and bye bye.